Do you want this guy in charge of your money supply? No, because he kind of has the same look in his eyes as Rasputin. Right here. Which one would you prefer? I don't know. They all kind of look nuts. But anyway, back to the article. Hey guys, Rafa here from the Endgame Investor, and today we're going to go through an article from CNBC about two people on the Fed, Lael Brainerd and Mary Daly, and also we'll mention another guy named Neil Kashkari, and all of them are very dangerous people, and they also have no idea what they're talking about. Interest rates rocketed yesterday on the back of several people from the Fed talking about how aggressive they were going to be with inflation, or with rising prices, as they are more properly called. Inflation already happened, and I will show you a few charts that will demonstrate graphically how out of their minds these people are. The article is from CNBC, that paragon of financial virtue. Key people from the Fed spooked the markets. Here's what they said. Fed Governor Lael Brainerd and San Francisco Fed President Mary Daly spoke Tuesday, emphasizing the central bank's commitment to fighting inflation through higher interest rates. The reason that this article freaked out the bond market so much yesterday is that these two people, Lael Brainerd and Mary Daly, are two of the most dovish people on a dove-infested Federal Reserve, and there is almost no one to the left of them in terms of money printing craziness. So if these two people are shouting out about inflation and the dangers of inflation, it means that almost everyone is going to vote for rate hikes. It is of paramount importance to get inflation down, Brainerd said. Raising rates is what is necessary to ensure that, again, you go to bed at night. You're not worrying about whether prices will be higher, considerably higher, tomorrow, Daly added. We're going to talk about why specifically that quote is crazy. Now, first, I wanted you to get a picture, literally, of who these people are. First of all, Lael Brainerd and Mary Daly look, to me, to be borderline insane. Here's Mary Daly. This is her official Fed picture. I don't know what's wrong with her hair. She kind of looks like Boris Johnson. Nobody seems to care about their appearance these days, but it gets worse than that. Here is Lael Brainerd. This is the picture from her CNBC article. And to me, this is quite reminiscent of that meth head character, Wendy from Breaking Bad, who you can find here. Right? Yeah, kind of looks like the same person. Oh my God, Mama, she looks like that meth head. How did I get into this business? I don't know. And there's only one guy on the Fed that I know of that is more dovish than these two people, and that is Neil Kashkari, who looks like that. Do you want this guy in charge of your money supply? No, because he kind of has the same look in his eyes as Rasputin. Right here. Which one would you prefer? I don't know. They all kind of look nuts. But anyway, back to the article. Anyway, Lael Brainerd says, it is of paramount importance to get inflation down. The Federal Open Market Committee, which sets interest rates, will continue tightening monetary policy methodically through a series of interest rate increases and by starting to reduce the balance sheet at a rapid pace as soon as our May meeting. That is what Lael Brainerd said, and here is what Daly said, speaking in front of a group of Native Americans. She says, most Americans, quote unquote, most people, most businesses, hopefully people in tribal nations, just to include those Native Americans in there, you all have confidence that we're not going to let this go forever, Daly said. But if you don't have that confidence, let me give it to you. Give it to me, Daly. Give it to me, baby. The problem is, you can't give it to me. X don't give it to you. Because in order for interest rate increases to start to suppress consumer price gains, they need to be positive in a real sense.
Are you sure?
I'm positive.
Let's go to a chart. This, the blue line, is the effective federal funds rate. The red line is the CPI inflation rate annual. You see here that there were 3 instances since 1967 where the Fed got out in front of the inflation curve and pushed the effective federal funds rate, the overnight interest rate, above the rate of inflation, and started preemptively going after it in order to suppress the consumer price inflation rate. And it worked all 3 times, but it was very precarious. Here, starting from 1967 to what looks like 1969, the federal funds rate went out ahead of the inflation rate, and eventually they got it under control. Here again, you see that they started raising rates 1972, right after the gold window closed. 1972, the effective federal funds rate starts to rise slowly but surely, going up even while the price inflation rate is falling to what looks to be 2.95% in July 1972. But the effective federal funds rate was still rising to preemptively keep inflation from going lower. And it didn't work until we hit 1974, and price inflation hit a peak where the effective federal funds rate rose to 13%, and the inflation rate was stopped at about 11.5%. And then both started falling fast. And then you have this classic battle between the interest rate and the inflation rate beginning in early 1977, where the Fed quickly got behind the curve at the beginning, and price inflation rates started to rise to 6.42%, 6.7%, while the effective federal funds rate was below that, meaning real interest rates were negative. And then the real chase began. And the price inflation rate did not stop rising until interest rates hit 17.61% in 1980, in April of 1980. And so finally, it was under control. And now, Mary Daly doesn't want anyone to freak out about inflation because, oh, the Fed is going to methodically move interest rates higher. You see, the price inflation rate has moved from what looks to be about 2.24% in May 2020, suffering from the lockdowns of March of that year, and kept skyrocketing, and the Fed has done absolutely nothing. But, oh, look here. They've done a tiny little hike. Look at that. Oh my gosh. Oh man, like 0.08 to 0.2. Look at that. They're really on top of it. And they want us to go to bed without worrying about the price inflation rate skyrocketing higher. And how are they going to do that? Through methodical interest rates hike. Up to where? I mean, what Mary Daly doesn't seem to understand is that it took from August 1972 to about September 1974 for interest rate hikes to take control of the price inflation situation in the 1970s. That was 2 years. And from 1978 to 1980, well, you know, that's obviously 2.5 years. And from around February 1977 to here, where price inflation peaked out at 17.6%, it also took 2 years. So, and that was with huge interest rate hikes from, what was it, 4.95% to 17%. Like, what are they talking about? That we're going to go sleep well at night because they did this? You can't even see it. And what? These people don't understand basic logic. It's not that interest rate hikes are a magic recipe that suddenly push down consumer prices or make them stop increasing at an incredible rate. What interest rates are supposed to do is encourage people to not spend money because they earn interest on holding it and not spending it. But that only counts if you're going to gain real purchasing power by holding the money. It doesn't matter if you make interest rate hikes if the real interest rate is still negative because the inflation rate is still above the interest rate hike. So people will still spend money and they won't go to bed thinking how wonderful it is that the Fed hiked interest rates from negative 8.5% real, from whatever it is, to negative 8.25%. It really is unbelievable what these people think. And so, Mary, Wendy, or Lael, or whatever your name is, if you want to push an interest rate hike that's about 800 or 900 basis points tomorrow, then maybe, yeah, you'll get control of the consumer price inflation rate. Could be. But if you do that, all of the banks are going to fail, all of them. And your bankster friends, if you want to call them up before the next FOMC meeting and tell them to take one-way tickets on the Lolita Express to Epstein Island to live out the rest of their days in paradise. Do it. But you are not going to get control of the price inflation situation otherwise. A 25 basis point hike ain't going to do it. A 50 basis point hike ain't going to do it. A 100 basis point hike ain't going to do it. You need to do about 1,000.
It's over 9,000!
You get it? For 2 years.
2 years!
Rafi of the Endgame Investor, wondering if the banksters and the FOMC committee already bought their one-way tickets on the Lolita Express to live out the rest of their days in paradise, because either the banks are going to fail or the dollar is going to fail. And there is no other way out but to put yourself on the gold and silver standard. If you like this video, consider signing up for a 2-week free trial of the Endgame Investor, link in the description below, or sign up to be my patron on Patreon for as little as $3 a month, where you will get my extra biblical commentary on economics and finance and monetary policy. And everyone, have a good Passover next week who is celebrating, or happy Easter, whenever that is. So long.
No more questions. Thank you very, very much. You've been a lovely, lovely witness.